Hey everybody, it's good to see you all again. This segment is just to kind of let you guys know what is going on in this episode. So, in this episode, there is a situation. Towards the end, or anywhere in this episode, there is a blank. That means there's no sound coming in the episode, and you might think that is your fault. That is my fault. You can blame me, say it was my fault, because that is an editing problem, and that's because of recording and the recording platform that I use. If that happens to be in the episode, if that's in it, what you need to do is to just disregard it. Don't worry about it. Consider it like an ad break. Consider it like a break. Consider it like we're taking a 5 minute break. Consider it like that. So, no freaking out. No need to worry. Make sure you guys enjoy the episode, enjoy what's in it, and y'all have a good one. And enjoy this one. Really enjoy it and have fun. And please disregard the blanks in there, consider them breaks. Hope you guys enjoy this episode and thank you guys for understanding and for your cooperation. Hey, 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 everybody! Welcome to a brand new episode. Today's me and Jack again with a with an amazing artist. He's incredible, and he even has his own band. And I'm just so excited. Say it to the world.
Hey, this is Robert Andrew Wagner of the Little Wretches. Hello out there, Wrap It Out fans.
Hey, yo. So, is there anything you'd like to say starting off to the audience at all before we get into questions?
Well, I'm not familiar with the audience, so I'm not kind of what
It's-
sure
it
what
can really
questions
just-
they have, but
The
I'm up
audience
for
can be
anything.
the audience is just like listening. They're listening to get information about the artist. So, is there any information you'd like to say before we get into the questioning? Just any basic rundown.
Well, I've been doing this for a long time. Just always had this sense from the time I was young that the things that make me tick. I like to write. I like to perform. I like to teach. I teach through stories and I tell stories through songs. That's what I do. Um, the name of my project, my lifelong project, I've been doing this since the mid 80s. It's called The Little Wretches. You probably heard the old hymn, Amazing Grace, how sweet thou art to save a wretch like me. Blessed are the meek. We're the voice of those who have no voice. We identify with those who don't belong anywhere, but got to find a way to make their way in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I get that.
Yeah,
Now,
I see. Like musically, even though I work through the song format in music, I feel of the artists that I know, I'm most akin with like a theater guy like August Wilson, a playwright like August Wilson. Uh, I in the world of pop music where people are just listening to music to make themselves feel good, and say, hey, why don't you just take drugs? If you want to feel good, there's a thousand other ways to do it. We're here to change your life, touch your soul.
yeah, I get that, and I wanna touch on the thing you said. You said you've been doing this since the 80s or like mid 80s.
Yeah, I've probably been doing it longer than you guys have been alive.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
was
Now
born in
there
I
was
was
this
born
thing that
2006.
happened.
So
Yeah, there was this thing that happened called punk rock. I'm sure you've heard
oh
it and
yeah, of
seen
course I've
pictures
heard of
of
it.
it. But I mean, there was a time, and it's interesting because punk rock and hip hop started at approximately the same time. Like the music, now this is before the days of cell phones and everybody having a laptop computer and everybody being one click away from every other person in the world. This was when the entertainment industry had become like a dinosaur, huge, and people like us were completely locked out, and you had to find a do-it-yourself kind of thing. Now, I'm sure
Yeah,
you know that like hip hop started in like parking lots and community centers in the Bronx.
yeah,
Punk rock
definitely.
started with kids that couldn't get into regular clubs, that couldn't even afford guitars. So it was a completely do it yourself. We refuse to be shut down. We're going to find a way to do our thing. And so I always wanted to be a performer, but I didn't know anybody in entertainment. How do you get in? How do you get your foot in the door? And punk rock was like an invitation. Hey, you're welcome here. You can do it. I never really, like for a lot of people, punk rock, it was all about haircuts and clothing styles, but it was really a very open door, bring what you do to the party. And so that gave me the chance to get started, just kind of discover what I'm good at and, choose a path. And it's, the punk path and the hip hop path kind of went the same way. From the point of view of the entertainment industry, a lot of the major artists and, upstart labels were purchased by the big entertainment conglomerates like Sony and whatsoever, and, that kind of stuff. But, there's still that do it yourself, that do it yourself movement where I have something to say, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to find a way to reach people.
Yeah, for sure. One thing, it's really interesting talking to people who were alive, like you started who were alive long before me. You started doing this thing 15 years before I was ever alive, and I'm about to turn 15 this year. So it's about, fuck, I don't know, just
Wow. Well, good for you getting on board this early, because a lot of when I was 15, I knew that I wanted to do this, but I had no idea how to start. And here you are, you're 15 and you're already doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just the tools available to me. A lot of music, the tools available to me, like YouTube and shit like that. It's crazy to think, like put into perspective, like how quick things advance. Just comparing 20 years ago now compared to 20 years ago, which would be 40 years ago. Compare 40 years ago to 20 years ago. It's just things are progressing very fucking quickly at all, at all fronts.
Yeah. Well, okay, this might be a little bit off topic for you, but I've learned in the course of my study of the field, there was a time, like when the major form of public entertainment was the radio, and there was a time when it was against the law to play recorded music on the radio. All music on the radio had to be performed live. And when the radio stations started playing recorded music, musicians went on strike because they felt like the radio was putting live musicians out of work. Of course, now we all depend on streaming and connectivity to get our product out there. But once upon a time, live musicians, they were actually against the whole broadcast industry because it was pulling money out of their pockets.
Yeah, it's just the way things evolve, I guess. Like nothing will stay the same forever. Like now I know this may sound crazy, but I've been using the internet on and off since I was about 5 years old in 2011 when I first started watching YouTube and like dwelling the internet, that type of shit. And just compared to how things have changed from 2011 to now, looking back, there's even like old YouTube channels I had from like 5 years ago, and just seeing how things change that quickly. Just imagine how quickly things changed back
then.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine, who knows where it's all going to lead.
Yeah. Like even in 10 years from now, just imagine like the technological advances and shit like that. Just
yeah, well, I mean, everybody's talking about virtual reality and
next year,
AI.
Not next year. Next 10 years, we're gonna be able to fucking like plug our brains into computers or some shit. That's a joke, but whatever.
Well, have you seen the movie Blade Runner 2049?
I think I think I watched like is that different from the one with Arnold? Like the
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a completely okay. The Arnold series was different. The original Blade Runner is one of the great science fiction movies.
Yeah,
It's kind of,
definitely.
dystopian, set in the future, where there's been a new artificial form of life that is
I used to be a
so
big like
human they don't even know that they're artificial. And then the sequel, which was made like 30 years later, Blade Runner 2049. It's really, I mean, it's sort of what you're talking about. It's a very realistic glimpse of what it could be, day after tomorrow with technology advancing the way it is. Where you're not sure if the people you're interacting with are real or artificial, and the artificial people don't even know if they're real or artificial, but they're all yearning for something better. They're all yearning for, a longer life and a meaningful life. uh,
yeah.
it's really kind of moving, and if you haven't seen it, man, see it. If Blade Runner attached to it, you need to watch it.
Yeah. Funny thing, I used to be a big like whatever it is, like film buff, like movie watcher, whatever term you prefer. I used to watch a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fucking movies, especially like 80s films, 90s films, and stuff before that. Like I went through a phase where I only watched films from the 30s and 40s and shit because I was snobbish like that. But
Oh,
that
good for
really
you.
gave me a lot of like knowledge on movies and references and stuff like that. I used to be a big Arnold fan. I wanted to watch all of his movies. I think I watched all the Terminators up to Terminator 4. So 1, 2, and
Okay.
3. I watched Kindergarten Cop, watched Blade Runner. What was that one? Uh
Well, the one about the red planet, what's that one
oh
called?
yeah, that one as
Recall.
well.
Total
Yeah.
Recall, and what's the one where he's like running in a race? I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's
Yeah, but point is I watched a lot of Arnold
yeah,
movies, so
yeah. Well, good. That's good.
yeah.
Well, okay, now you're talking about some classic oddball movies. Did you ever come across in your studies? Did you ever come across a German movie called Wings of Desire? That's the American name, Wings of Desire.
No, but I have come across like an old German film called M, if you remember that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I watched the German version like with subtitles and geez, it was pretty.
Well, that's the thing. If you're involved in music, storytelling and film is just so sophisticated, and eh, it's as even as popular entertainment, it's way more sophisticated than what you get in music. Uh,
I
and you
wouldn't like
find that,
to say each take their own respective skill sets. Like take somebody who's experienced on front of the camera and like experienced in acting and put them in front of like a bunch of instruments, force them to make a song and vice versa. I don't think it'll go well. Like each takes their own specific skills.
oh yeah, 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 I agree with that. But some of those guys that we know as actors, uh,
Yeah.
they have more talent in the tip of their finger. They could be actors, they could be singers.
Oh yeah. Although
They're
there are like great examples of why people who do one thing probably shouldn't go into another. Like actors trying to get into music and musicians trying to get into acting and
yeah.
stuff like that. I could probably name one. This will probably ruffle a few feathers. Eddie Murphy.
Oh my.
I
So
remember Eddie Murphy had like a music career and he made like a song with Rick James or something like "Party all the time." Party.
my girl likes to party all the time. I remember it. Yeah. Yes, indeed.
You probably remember that, but
It warms my heart to know that you sneer at it because when it came out, it was quite popular.
man, it's just funny looking back at what was popular back then, and even though even though there's some stuff that even now, if we go into like 40 years into the future, we'll be laughing at, it's still fun.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing I am nostalgic about from those days, though. I don't know if you've ever listened to any early Run DMC or any of the stuff from like the early
Oh
movie
yeah, I've
soundtracks.
watched.
Like,
I'm not watched. I've listened to a couple Run DMC songs, and
yeah,
I think I know a tiny bit about them. Not a whole lot,
yeah.
but yeah.
Well, the for the general public, right? Like, yeah, I can remember hearing the first time I heard, the first time I heard a hip hop song, it was on the radio driving through Baltimore when I was pretty young. Uh, I don't even think it had a name, but we kind of knew, oh, so this must be what they're talking about, rap music. But the general public was largely introduced to hip hop and rap music through movies. The movie Colors, the soundtrack to Colors, the movie New Jack City, the soundtrack to New Jack City, later Hustle and Flow, 8 Mile, and the soundtracks to those movies were many people's introduction to hip hop. And for me, because I'm an outsider to that scene, but I was also working as a substitute teacher in Pittsburgh public schools when New Jack City came out, and the kids knew every line of the movie, knew every word to every song in the show. That's film again. It's popular. I put it out there, and there was a time when every kid I knew wanted to grow up to be a rapper.
Geez. I mean, I'm in an environment where it's the same thing. Everybody I know wants to be a rapper, not in real life, but everybody I meet online, because I really hang around circles and groups of friends where like people are trying to make it in music, like legitimately. I have a lot of talented friends who are probably way better than I am, but don't get recognized as much. And that's just things are. Got to work for it,
Well, absolutely. I mean, the most talented people I know aren't even practicing their art because they don't have a stomach for the business. That's, hey, if you're looking for a pat on the back, you will occasionally get one, but you're going to get beat down a lot more times. If you have any quit in you, you might as well not even start.
Yeah. I think there are many ways, like there's more ways now to get to the end goal of like an abstract like concept fame and like fortune or whatever. Like there's many more ways to get to what people would call fame. In many other ways, through YouTube, through either traditional means or through like a lot of other ways.
Yeah, but that's the proverbial two-edged sword. Because if what you're seeking is fame, it wouldn't be the worst thing to become famous for something, but it wasn't what you intended. Like you had something you were trying to put across, and somehow you became remembered for being misunderstood. People totally misunderstood what you did. So
I think that's like a big connotation with one-hit wonders instead of people who along like the years like build a fan base. Like that's very common with people who blow up for one song and not through like a combination of like years of work and like slowly gaining a fan base. Because I can name a lot of examples of people who blew up off of one song and then their entire like existence as an artist is just based around that one song. If you remember the example, probably Asher Roth, you'll probably remember him. He blew up from the song I Love College, and people thought he was just like a frat rapper and that type of shit. But I took a listen to a lot of his other music and like shit was pretty good. Like maybe not the best, but like it's like goes a little bit deeper than I Love College.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking, what if you're an art, if you're serious about what you're doing and you have something to say, you want to create a body of work. So by the
Yeah.
time you're my age, you could point back to a body of work and hope that one song might lead people to get in there, and it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But for some people, they're going to end up listening to everything you ever recorded, reading everything you ever wrote. They're going to get into it. And that's really who I'm shooting for. The casual listener. I mean, you might get a few streams off them, make a buck here or there, but really what you're looking for are the people who love what you do. That's and you got to be able to stick out there long enough, be consistent enough for people to find you. And now with the technology, it is possible for people to find you.
Yeah, like a lot of things on the internet are just like it takes one person to find it and share it around, and then that could start a chain of like people discovering shit. Like it's way it's way easier now for a lot of different things to happen. Like it's way easier to make music. It's way easier to get recognized. Just everything's so much easier right now because everything is so much more accessible. You can like pick up a DAW, you can like download a beat off of YouTube, and you can just record like anything you want.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, of course, it's a little, disappointing a little bit too, because I work with at-risk kids, and I don't know, Takashi 69 put out something in the past year that, like, within a day of it being released, it had 6 million views on YouTube, and it's like, you're kidding me, 6 million views in one day. What have I done wrong with my life?
Mainly it's just outrage. Like people like 6ix9ine who operate off of outrage and nothing else. Like I don't see them being like as popular as they are for as long as they are, because like I was telling a lot of my friends like a while ago, like after 6ix9ine like got out and he released I forgot what the song's name was. That's to the point where I don't even remember like his first single out. But when a lot of people were telling me 6ix9ine's great, he's gonna stay around for a long time, it's just I keep telling people no. People who do not like who are not solely known off of their music and only known off of their Instagram antics, like they're not gonna last forever. And that came that came true when his album came out, got absolutely fucking panned, and I didn't hear anything from him for a long time. Nobody heard anything from him for a long time. Like people took their eyes off of him, stopped paying attention, and while he's still able to get like a sizable amount of views, probably not as much, since the hype has died down.
Yeah, but he's still so huge,
still huge. Like still probably bigger than like 60% of artists, like
but
it's
like a baby sitting in in the high chair. I want to get my mommy's attention, so I spill my milk. There are things that you can do to get people's attention, but then it's counterproductive. If you have something that you believe is serious to say and you want to say it, those types of tactics end up being counter to your message. So you just got to do what you believe in with all your might, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think I want to get into another conversation. Another question, since we've had like a long conversation. I want to ask like a couple more questions. Who are your biggest like inspirations in terms of like your music, like or anything else like that you take pride in? Who do you take inspiration from most?
Oh man, that's really hard, because like what inspires me, okay, you're probably looking for something that the audience knows, but I see little glimmers all the time, just on from anonymous people going about their lives, who have absolutely nothing to gain by doing the right thing, what I would consider the right thing, but do it anyhow, like a selfless act that they gain nothing from, but they see something needs to be done or something ought to be done, and they just do it, and get no thanks or reward from it. I see that kind of stuff all the time, and I mean, this is a real mild example, but I was catching football with some kids, and I work with at-risk kids, I think I mentioned, and so one kid can't throw the ball without, he has no control on how much velocity comes out of his throw. So I made the rule, he can only throw it to me because I know he's not going to hurt me. And then there's a girl who's afraid of the ball, and so I made a rule, I'm the only one who can throw it to her because I know how to throw it to her without hurting her. And then one of the kids in the group says, hey, he can throw to me and I can throw to her, because he just understood, you have to adjust. If you want to be part of the group, you have to adjust to the needs of the people in your group. And I see stuff like that all the time. Again, just people doing the right thing for no personal gain, except for they know it's the right thing to do. And then like in the arts, I take a lot of inspiration from a playwright like August Wilson. I don't know if you know the story of August Wilson, but he and this whole generation of writers from Pittsburgh, uh, black writers, just stopped going to school, and instead of going to school, went to the library. And August Wilson used to walk around with his little notepad. He'd be sitting in coffee shops or sitting in bars and just writing all the time, just taking in all the environment around him. And then ends up being like the Shakespeare of the 20th century in the United States. One of his buddies, he started a theater company called Black Horizons Theater with one of my teachers. The teacher's name was Rob Penny. Rob Penny just quit going to school, went to the library and read every book there was about Africa, and went on to become the head of the Black Studies Department at the University of Pittsburgh. Totally self-taught. And that's what's inspirational to me, where people who have these, what would seem to be insurmountable obstacles, and they just do their own thing and find their own way and end up having, a profound measure of success.
Yeah,
They just won't be stopped.
Yeah, it's always that's a different answer than what most people give. Most people would just say, my music is inspired by this artist, I take from this artist's style a little bit. But that's a very interesting answer. And I think we may need a couple answers like that from time to time, If I had to say, like in a more similar context to what you're talking about, what inspired my music, it's really nothing else other than myself and how much I want to like release music, like get stuff done, how good it feels to just write stuff.
Well,
Because can't really speak because I don't have the life experience that you have to speak more in depth on the types of stuff you're talking about, if you have what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But another question I think that could you could give a good answer to. Well, this possibly for the older people on the podcast, usually they just go with the job they're working now. But if you weren't making music or doing anything arts related, what would be your other passion, or what would be like your other?
Oh man, well, you see, that's when I was growing up, the thought of being an adult scared me because, from my point of view, most adults are miserable. They spend their days doing things that they don't want to do to make money, to pay for things that they don't need. They just get caught on this hopeless treadmill. And I could think of nothing more miserable than spending your life doing something that you didn't want to do. I was, another weird thing about me that sets me apart from other people is when I was 19 years old, I got cancer. I was in college, and the type of cancer I got at the time was considered terminal, but they had just come up with a new experimental treatment. I was lucky enough to have doctors who knew about it, and it worked. And I remember the night before my big surgery, just kind of, at that point I would have considered myself an atheist, but I'm praying and saying, hey, if I get to live, I will never once in my life do anything that I don't want to do or do anything that I don't believe in. So, and all I ever really wanted to do was write, teach, and perform, and again, I teach through writing and performing. So if I wasn't making music, I would be teaching and performing in some other way. And I've been lucky enough. When I was like in my 20s, I was able to tread water long enough to find a way to do it. And so now, there is no separation between my life and my work. Some people wake up dreading going to work. It's like, oh man. And people say, oh, are you going to go on vacation? Are you kidding me? My life is a vacation. I have fun every moment of every day. And I don't mind challenges. Some people that, they don't like hardship. It's like, man, overcoming hardship, that's my business. Come on, bring it on. That by the grace of God, my life is pretty easy now. But
Yeah.
You gotta find a way. If there's something that you want to do, just gotta do it, and the blessings will come.
Yeah.
If you what you don't want to do is second guess yourself. Give yourself the proverbial he's on the trapeze without a safety net. You give yourself a safety net, guaranteed you will fall back on it. You got to fly without a net.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, one big thing that I fear, like as you said, is like getting stuck in a kind of cycle of like doing a job that I don't want to do, getting money to pay for things that I don't want to pay for. And my biggest dream is to be able to like make money off of like what I love doing, being able to I live a like a sustaining life off of making music and or doing other creative ventures. Just I generally want to live off of being creative. That's a big thing for me. And I have a long while, and by a long while, I'm talking like maybe 4 years until I'm an adult, 18. 4 years to work and find opportunities and to take them. And especially like now more than ever, like as the pandemic goes on, like things are possibly getting better, things are like possibly opening up. Nothing's for certain, that's why I'm saying possibly, but as things get better, like a lot more opportunities are opening up, and as summer vacation arrives rather, I have a lot of time to make a lot of improvements and find a lot of opportunities and or just make a lot of connections. It's just a matter of how much work you're willing to put in.
Yeah, yeah, you have the right attitude. That's right. You're in the phase of your life where you're opening doors and creating opportunities, so that if you do ever have to make a choice, which door do I walk through? You're not walking through ignorant. You know what's out there, and you're doing what you love. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
It's musically. You haven't talked in a while.
Yeah.
Is there any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, sure. I want to kind of go, actually into your music. I want to go into because Jack kind of asked a lot of the general question I was going to go into. I want to kind of go into your music, so I wanted to ask firstly, what's your creative process like? How do you write a song?
Good
Man,
question.
it just comes to me. I've had songs. A lot of times it'll be either when I'm driving or when I'm walking. So it usually happens when I'm alone. Uh, and I've had songs come to me fully formed. Like it just comes to me, and it's like it was handed to me from the spirit world or something. And then other times, I'll pick up my guitar and I'll just start playing, and something comes out, and it just and there's this feeling in the same way that you get hungry and okay, it's time for me to eat. Uh, I don't know how this is for other people, but for me, there's this feeling that I have that I just say, okay, it's time for me to write. I have right now something's coming to me. I have something to say, and and when that happens, then it's time to drop everything, get away from everybody, and write. Uh, and then and there are times where I'll start with fragments, and I'll have a little fragment, let's say a musical phrase or a lyrical phrase, but it's incomplete, it's not done, and I might sit on that, or I'll try to work it into things for a long time. It might take years before I find a way to use it that's
Yeah.
right for it. So, and you guys are young, so you can't, you might have an idea right now that you're not going to put into practice for another 15 or 20 years. But the idea, if it's good, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So that's how it works for me. I don't know where it comes.
Yeah, just
Uh,
things happen naturally. Doing it long enough will make things a lot more natural to you. At first, when you're doing music and shit like that, it can like feel like every idea that you're making and like coming up with, it like takes a bunch of work in order to turn that into something you can listen to. But as time goes on, you start doing music more, you start getting more comfortable doing it, like things start to come more naturally. And with skills, did I pronounce that weird? With skills comes the ability to put your ideas into a more tangible thing you can do, like listen to or look at if it's like a drawing and or like any other type of art or self-expression.
Oh yeah, well, like when I was a kid and I first started playing the guitar, and I'd hear about these musicians that practiced 6 hours or 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
and that's sound, and there's your mom making you practice a half hour a day, and it feels like an eternity. But then once you build up your vocabulary, and you realize use it or lose it. I need to practice this. Yeah, I might end up practicing 6 or 8 hours a day. And then after you've done that for long enough, you no longer need to do it because you've internalized all those skills. It's second nature to you. And with writers, you have writing instructors that'll tell you write every day. Like, but I don't have anything to say every day. Yeah, but get in the habit of writing every day so that when it is time to write, those pathways of your brain are open, like they're trained. They're like muscles. You've trained in advance so that when it's time to use them, you have them to use. So you got to practice. You got to put in the time, but it really comes down to inspiration. So you're training your mind and your body so that when inspiration strikes, you can honor that inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. That's
Mhm.
that's really good advice.
Yeah.
And I think that leads into the next question that I'm asking. I'm not going to ask that now, but I'm going to rather expand, and then I'm going to ask the question. Just a lot of times when I was starting off, like I've been rapping for about 3 years. This year will mark like the third year that I've been writing rap at all, and a lot of time, like a lot of what you speak of about getting in the habit of writing a lot and practicing, so when you do have a lot of ideas, when you do get good, it's like more natural and like stuff like that. Like me starting off and going to where I am now, I can like I'm still been I've been rapping for a short enough time and I'm young enough to where I physically can recall like the kind of shit you're talking about, and it is really like really good advice to anybody out there who feels like they can't write anything or feels like that they're going through writer's block. Just I have a lot of friends who go through writer's block, and a lot of things.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things I tell them, and keep writing is one thing, but you never want to stop writing, because if you stop writing, you might lose experience. Because I've went through periods where, like, I'm lucky enough, I've went through periods where I haven't written all too much for like a 3-month time periods, but I've still been writing occasionally and been practicing it enough to the point where I was still improving. And so when the 3 months was up, I came up with a lot of ideas. I was able to get stuff done quickly because I kind of got out of writer's block, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So that leads into the next question. Is there any advice that you haven't said already that you would give to somebody who was in your position when you were starting? Is there any advice you would give to somebody like who's starting off?
Well, you kind of have to learn to be your own best critic. When you're getting feedback from people, uh, you never. I mean, there are people that you're going to encounter that are going to give you encouragement. But okay, I'm just as somebody who's been doing this for a long time, since we've been in like the virtual world, uh, a lot of performing songwriters are doing performances through Zoom, or we're having what's called songwriter circles or our house concerts where it might be 20 people and each person plays a song and a few people play 3 or 4 songs. And I'll hear these performances and I'll think, one, it sounds terrible. Two, the person can't sing. Three, the person can't play. Four, the person can't write. But when they finish their performance, everybody applauds them and tells them how good they were. So you got to realize that you got to take with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And likewise, criticism. What I'm really looking for in criticism, because I know there are people who aren't going to like what I do, but if there are people who understand what I'm trying to do, because I want to communicate. So if people don't like what I'm doing, I'm asking myself, where did communication break down? Is it that they don't just like what I'm doing, or is there a different way I can approach this? Because what I find is, the people talk about finding your target audience, but we're really like refining minerals. We're refining ore into gold and silver. We're
Yeah.
purifying what we're doing. We're discovering what is it that I'm really doing. And so you have to learn how to be your own best critic.
Yeah.
And you end up having a few trusted voices that you got to internalize. Maybe a teacher, maybe a friend who's not
Yeah.
always going to be around. You're going to know them for 2 or 3 months, but they're going to give you a lot of wisdom and insight. And then 3 years down the road, you're going to be asking yourself, well, what would Joshua be saying to me right now? What would be what would my friend Mike be saying to me now if he heard this from me?
Yeah.
But you got to learn how to be your own best critic, and you do have to trust yourself, because if you're looking for external reinforcement, you can't trust it.
Yeah. That's definitely important because I think a lot of people when they're either in the beginning stages or when they feel they've gotten good enough and they don't need to improve, usually what they're looking for is people to say, yeah, you don't need to improve, keep going, bro. Just a lot of confirmation that what they're doing is good enough. And I think one thing that a lot of people become is complacent. They become complacent where they are, and they don't think there's any room for improvement. And even I myself, like rapping for 3 years and making the stuff that I make, I admit that there's like a room for improvement, and there's things I could fix. There's things that I could do to improve the final product. It's just never become complacent. And expanding on what you said about criticism, I think a lot of times when I was starting off, I would not take criticism very well. It was a big process, like starting off, me learning how to take criticism and apply it, me learning what's good, what's bad. And I heard from a friend of mine, well, you'll probably laugh if I say friend of mine, but a person I know and talk to quite a bit, Roan, he said something about try all advice, like try all criticism at least once, so you know how to apply it. Whether so you know what's good, what's bad. Apply every piece of criticism at least once to see what they're talking about, and try it, like test it and stuff like that. So yeah,
That's actually really good advice.
yeah,
It's
he's
hard.
been
It's hard. It's hard though.
yeah, he's been
Yeah, it's
making
hard.
music since well, he made his first song in 2011, but he says he's been rapping for less because like it was on and off for like a little while, but then yeah, started taking it more seriously. And yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
See, and I'm sitting here, I'm totally out of the loop because, like I said, I came to rap music as an outsider. I'm more from, poetry, spoken word stuff. So that's
Yeah.
where I connect with rap music. But since I work with kids, I'd always have kids, kids that were locked up that loved music, and music was their only connection to the real world. So,
Yeah.
they treasured it, and they would be burning me CDs. You got to listen to this, you got to listen to this. And, I'm kind of shut off in that front now. I don't have any young people in my life that are turning me on to, you got to hear this, you got to hear this. So, like, a rapper like yourself, I don't even know what you're doing. I don't even know what's considered good anymore.
I think it's hard to pinpoint objectively what can be considered good, but everybody has a sense of everybody has two different things for good. There's good in the mainstream sense, like for famous rappers, what's good, and what's good for people of their skill level. Like for people like me and people like my friends, there's stuff that we consider good that in the mainstream wouldn't be considered all too great, but it's kind of like different standards, if you get what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
But I would like to feel I'm getting to the point, and a lot of my friends are getting to the point where we can compare ourselves to more mainstream acts and like get on the same standard. as they're in, you know? So yeah.
Well, okay, well, give me a couple of classic hip hop tracks that you would look to as like, okay, this is a song that changed things and that we all should listen to and learn from.
Now I'll give a couple recent examples because I can probably name like a cliched couple 90s rap songs, but I think there are a couple rap songs that have been released within the past 10 years which have really, and even albums that have like raised the bar like so fucking high that a lot of people, like there's some rappers like Kendrick Lamar, listening to a Kendrick album and listening to a Kendrick song, like I heard from a friend of mine, McGizzy. He's a rapper that I'm friends with. He says, when I listen to Kendrick Lamar, I think, why am I even rapping at this point? I'll never be as good as this.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
People like Kendrick Lamar with their albums Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, and even more specifically, if we want to get into specific songs, like Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst off of Good Kid, Mad City, and like basically the entirety of Butterfly. I can't name one song off of that doesn't like raise the bar so high.
Okay.
Like I think Kendrick, as well as like a couple other rappers, have raised the bar for mainstream rap so high. Like people like J. Cole as well to a lesser extent because I prefer Kendrick to Cole, but I think J. Cole has also done a lot in like raising the standard for mainstream rappers, kind of.
Wow. See, I'm patting myself on the back here because I know Kendrick Lamar's music and I know J. Cole's music, a little bit of it, stuff that the kids have turned me on to. It's like, okay, I'm not as far gone as I thought I was.
Yeah. Just when Kendrick there's one song I go back to from Kendrick that I listen to and I think, why am I even rapping at this point? It's the song Mad City off of his album Good Kid, Mad City. And it's so great. Like it's a hard beat and like a car beeping outside. Let's ignore that. It's why? Anyways, I'll continue. The song Mad City features rapper MC8, if that's how you pronounce it, and there's a beat switch in the middle.
Wow.
Car stop beeping now. So
yeah. I never knew how to pronounce that guy's name either.
Yeah, but thing is, what I find interesting about him is he was like a semi-popular rapper in the 90s or something, and he made a reference to like one of his bigger hits earlier on in the song. Like he referenced a song that he made in the 90s in the intro to his feature, and like even the first beat, like let me take you on a trip down memory lane, just like the start of it to the end of it, the whole song just is so hard. I love Let me take you on a trip down memory lane. This is not a rap on how I'm slinging crack and move cocaine. This is so great. I love this.
Wow.
But yeah, I think we need to get to the point where I think we are at the point where we need to wrap things up a bit, but I think we'll leave this section to place the rapping, like for wrap it out. So
okay, all righty. Well, I'll tell you what, you guys mentioned before we started recording that I would be contributing a song, and in the spirit of what we've been talking about, I'm gonna give you a little piece called "Call a Spade," which is a song that I've performed with my band, the Little Wretches, but I can also perform solo, just me and my guitar. And I'll hit you with I think it's fairly lyrically strong. I don't deliver it in a rap style. I mean, to me, the rap style is when the words are both conversational but also very rhythmic and kind of percussive. And I keep it more conversational, but I think it's lyrically strong, relevant.
Like it could be like a song where you sing, a song where you can rap, as long as it sounds good or as long as you perform it well, we'll accept it,
Yeah,
like
yeah. Hey, well, we'll see, but you'll be expecting "Call a Spade" from me.
Yeah. Okay.
Sweet.
Okay, so I think right now, I think would be a good chance to have you shout out any social medias you want to shout out any people you want to shout out, just any homies, like just shout out like any social media you have or any homies and their social media, any songs, upcoming projects, just anything. So here you go. Just have this
Okay.
time.
All righty. Well, I don't do much with social media. I actually I've been around long enough that I pay a publicist to try to generate uh, media for me. Uh, I'm not of your generation, so there are people who've posted old shows that I did, a long time ago that when they were recording the shows, I thought they were wasting their time, and now I realize that those were valuable moments in my life. But our website is littlewretches.com. There's tons of stuff on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you stream music, you could find the Little Wretches. Weird thing, in the past year we had the number one song on the folk rock charts in South Africa, and it's like, how in the world did that happen? It's a song called "The Ballad of Johnny Blowtorch." So just look for the Little Wretches. You won't be wasting your time. You'll probably find something pretty interesting. Wherever you are. Like, I don't. I got a Facebook page, but I understand Facebook is for old people now. I don't know.
Yeah. So is that it? If
Yeah, littlewretches.com, and wherever you find music, search for the Little Wretches, you'll find it.
all
Hey,
right. So I think just
oh,
want
you
to
want
say
me to shout out some homies?
if you want to
Yeah.
do that as well, you can do that.
Well, first of all, I'm going to shout out Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Even though I live in the Philly area now, I still represent Pittsburgh everywhere I go, the eighth most important city in the history of the world. Legendary communities: Squirrel Hill, the Hill District, Homewood, Brushton, Manchester. I'd like to shout out my friend Brother Ash with Brother Ash Productions. Uh, Great columnist in Pittsburgh, the legendary Tony Norman, who's also originally a Philly kid, now writing award-winning columns out of Pittsburgh as a writer. And then, of course, for everybody out there who doesn't know, the Shakespeare of America was August Wilson. He no longer walks the earth, but his plays will live forever. So if you don't know the work of August Wilson, please find the work of August Wilson. And so they're not really my homies, but I treasure them.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
Mhm.
And just wanted to say a couple words. I'm glad you had the time to hop on and glad we could have this conversation. I really enjoy doing this podcast because you get to meet like a wide variety of people. But just wanted to say thank you for coming on. Thank you musically for having me as a co-host, like being in the background for a couple sections.
Yeah.
and thank the audience for listening to what we have to say. Shout out to Little Wretches. So you already know who I am. I'm Jack. Hope you enjoyed this segment of the Wrap It Out podcast. Hope you have an amazing day and goodbye.
Bye
Musically,
bye.
would you like to say anything before we leave?
Not really. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit us up on all our socials. Everything's on Wrap It Up Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I hope you guys have a good one and stay tuned for more to come. Bye, everybody. See y'all soon.
Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Hello, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight as we dove into a wonderful podcast episode. Now, in this following segment, you will get a chance to hear this artist's showcase because every artist that comes on the show requires to do a showcase. So, buckle up, get some popcorn, and enjoy the showcase. I hope you guys love it and check out the artist when you get a chance to. Hope you guys love it. Enjoy.
Okay, as if this song isn't long enough, I've got to give it an intro. If you're into rap music, you ought to know the roots of the form. You ought to know about the last poets, spoken word over percussion, the last poets. And from the last poets, we get Gil Scott Heron, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, Gil Scott Heron. Well, the song I'm about to play, Call a Spade, was inspired by a line from a Gil Scott-Heron piece, a poem for Jose Campos Torres. Scott-Heron says, it was a turnaround world where things were all too quickly turned around. It was turned around so up looked down. It was turned around so right looked wrong. It got so you couldn't even call a spade a motherfucking spade. Okay, it was true when he said it. It was true when I wrote the song, and it's even more true today. So here's Call a Spade a Spade.
There must have been an earthquake. People clinging hard and fast, with their grip so tight they were afraid to let go, even when the danger passed. They closed the universities and turned them into vocational schools. From here on in there, keeping score and they're playing by the rules. Don't worry, mama, don't be afraid. There's nobody left who's gonna call a spade a spade. My mother says, well, look here, son, when a man walks down the street, if he's dressed like $1 million, that's what everybody believes. He might not have a penny to his name, might not have an idea in his brain, but people treat him like he's got $1 million just the same. Don't worry, mama, don't be afraid. There's nobody left who's gonna call a spade a spade. My mother called off work 'cause she'd been drinking. She needed someone to blame, and I was there. You're not worth the blood I spilled when you were born, she said. It might have shaken me up if I cared. Don't worry, mama, don't be afraid. There's nobody left who's gonna call a spade a spade. The reporters weren't around to watch it simmer. They weren't around to watch it erupt. So piecing together the fragments of second-hand testimony isn't enough. But you, gentle reader with your coffee breath, you're more concerned about the spot on your tie. And if they don't print the whole truth, you're not gonna bother to notice that they printed a lie. 'Cause you're the hypoglycemic fodder for the candy-coated counterculture college boy throne. You're just like every dilettante who bought his leathers and a pawn shop guitar with your student loan. Your broadcast is sponsored by the Pentagon, government contracts for social research. And when you run out of ways to save, your rebellion is like going to church. When in doubt, be sarcastic. When in doubt, say it, and you'll be right 90% of the time. So says the cynic who wishes he had the heart to do more than talk about a life of crime. And then he steadies himself with the knowledge that he alone is witness to his own lies. He says forget free will, 'cause I've found something better called free enterprise. Don't worry, mama, don't be afraid. There's nobody left who's gonna call a spade a spade. Well, Galileo was forced into silence for saying that the sky isn't made of glass. But if you work for a living, it really doesn't matter if you think the world is flat. 'Cause nobody has the guts to say I won't live like this no more. Because you always lose the first battle in a revolutionary war. Don't worry, my